And all of the newspapers are tonight reflecting on that Elizabethan era. Well, for the next few minutes, I'll be joined by the former royal photographer and author Ian Lloyd and Matt Dathan, Home Affairs editor of The Times, to look at the front pages in our press preview on that extraordinary day. So let's see then the front pages. All of them leading, as I said, on them. The Guardian shows the Queen's coffin being carried by the coffin bearers with the headline, "The Final Farewell." Same picture is on the front page of the Mirror with the words, "Until we meet again." Also, the front of the Express, which says simply, "God rest our Queen." The FT shows King Charles and other members of the royal family following the coffin out of Westminster Abbey after the funeral service. On the front of the Metro, a full-page picture of the funeral cortege making its way to Windsor. The procession moving down the long walk outside Windsor Castle is on the front page of The Sun. And The Times has a photo of the coffin being carried into St George's Chapel, while the Mail shows the Queen's coffin being lowered into the royal vault, saying it's her final journey. The Star says the Queen has been laid to rest beside her husband, Prince Philip. And the Eye says the funeral marks the end of the Elizabethan age. While the Telegraph describes the day as an outpouring of love as the royal family and the nation came together to say farewell to the Queen. Well, do scan the QR code that you'll see on screen during the programme, and there you can check out those front pages of tomorrow's newspapers while you watch our guests. So let's go to them then. And Ian, you feel sad, I guess, a sense of finality about today.
Yeah, I mean, look at The Guardian with the final farewell, and it is a farewell. I mean, I remember the Diana death and funeral like it was yesterday, and the funeral was just the start with Diana, because we had a whole year of conspiracy theories and, you know, friends that were coming forward, astrologers, and everybody came out the woodwork to sell their story. And it went on for years until there was, you know, the inquest and so on. And then it was the 10th anniversary, because she was a Marilyn Monroe figure that would always continue. But with the Queen, you do sense it, there is a finality. I mean, there's very little can now go forward with it, apart from an official biography in 5 or 6 years, maybe a statue, that kind of thing.
And the pictures of today, you know, the country did itself proud, did it not, with the world leaders in attendance. You know, the suggestion is that more countries were invited than actually existed at the time of the coronation. What did you make as you watched the pictures and, you know, Joe Biden in row 14, you know, waiting in line, this great leveller?
That's right. I mean, Britain was right at the centre of the world today. And what really surprised me was the world leaders. As you said, we had everyone there, almost everyone represented in the world, and yet they played such a marginal role. And as you say, Joe Biden stuck in traffic, so he got shunted towards the back of, you know, the row 14. And it was really just the Queen front and centre and the royal family. And for me, it was quite a reassuring sort of day that Britain can come together at these big moments, and everyone was united, and nothing went wrong, really. There was nothing that turned out to... There were no sort of protests, there were no shows of dissent, there was no people shouting that I heard of. It was just a day of unity, and let's just hope we can maybe use that and inspire us in the next few sort of weeks and months.
Yes, and the Queen inspiring that unity even in death. But the sound of today as well, look at the Eye there, the end of the Elizabethan age, the long walk, the extraordinary scenes there of members of the public. But as I said, the sound, that rhythmic procession which took you to the drama of today all the way through, Ian.
I was in Horse Guards, on Horse Guards Parade, the approach road, and it's quite narrow there, and we had the bands going through, and you could actually feel the music going through you, you know, and then hear the crunch of the wheels of the carriage and the slam of the boots of the soldiers, and it was very atmospheric. And like you say, like the coronation, because in the coronation there was a 5-mile procession of Commonwealth troops, and I was quite surprised to hear there were Commonwealth troops coming over, because where I was the start of the procession, and we had 4 Mounties, and then troops from Australia and New Zealand and so on, to emphasise the Queen's international role and head of the Commonwealth.
The Financial Times as well, we see there, people of loving service are rare in any walk of life. Leaders of loving service are still rarer. And the tributes we've heard over the last 10, 11 days, Matt, you know, in a sense you feel this is a leader, a monarch, from whom nobody has said a bad word throughout her 70 years of service.
That's right. Even Vladimir Putin gave quite a surprising tribute to her, and you're right. And through leaders like Emmanuel Macron, who gave that really quite moving tribute and very personal tribute to the Queen in English, which he very rarely does. It was incredibly moving, and there was a real poignant message, I thought, from the Archbishop of Canterbury during the service today. He, with all the world's leaders watching, he said, those who serve will be loved and remembered when those who cling to power and privileges are long forgotten. That was a very clear message, I think, to those in attendance. But that's portrayed in the back of the eye, I think, in tomorrow's newspapers.
Can I just mention something with the FT? Just a story that comes to my mind. You know, you're not allowed to walk on the tomb of the unknown soldier. And I was once photographing the Queen outside a church in Castle Rising in Norfolk. And just before she arrived, she sent her protection officer. And this guy got out of the car and said, the Queen wants to make sure that none of you stand on any of the graves, you know. So all these photographers from Fleet Street felt like 5-year-olds being told off by your mum, you know, sort of. And that was kind of her, you know, sort of figure of thought.
The protection of legacy, looking out after the military and the pride of those taking part today, you could clearly see. We saw the Times there as well, go forth upon their journey. They've decided to pick that picture of St George's Chapel in Windsor, and in fact the royal family releasing another photo today. We've seen the one from Balmoral in 1971, but this is the four of us and Prince Philip, and it is those that are now buried in the King George VI Memorial Chapel, this private burial which has taken place this evening. And the Queen laid to rest along with her late husband, the Duke of Edinburgh. That sense, Ian, that he's been waiting for her.
Absolutely, yeah. And if you go to that chapel, the George VI Memorial Chapel was built in 1969. It's the only addition to St George's in 500 years. And you're surrounded by all these ornate tombs in St George's, Victorian, great, you know, Gothic things full of writing and everything. The amazing thing in that tomb is that when you go in, there's just a slab and it just says George VI and his dates. Elizabeth, that's the Queen Mother, and her dates. There's nothing about her Britannic Majesty. And they're just going to add Elizabeth and Philip, I would imagine, to match it. And that's so simple after all the, you know, the titles she's got and so on.
The Daily Mail, her final journey to a 120-page historic souvenir edition. So there will be plenty of reading time, I think, for everybody in the morning. Matt Dathan, Ian Lloyd, for the moment, thank you very much indeed.